Hello kiddies, I'm Chris from TechSpert and today we're having a proper gander at the OnePlus 12R. It's the first OnePlus R phone to actually hit the UK, boasting some proper premium specs but at a cheaper price than the OnePlus 12 flagship. So is it rated R for its trouser-rousing abilities or because it's a right pile of rubbish? Let's whip the OnePlus 12R out of the box, take you on a full-on tour, test the game and the camera tech, all that good stuff. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Alright, the OnePlus 12, it comes in a delightfully crimson box. And inside, you've got yourself, naturally, a OnePlus 12R. You've got yourself a sizable 100-watt Super VOOC charger. A big long red one, USB cable that is, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Pokey SIM pin, boring safety guff, sticker, red cable club card, I believe your mum's a member. Got some shout outs to a whole bunch of OnePlus community members, and your obligatory bit of blurb from War Great Mate Pete. And finally, that's everything you get stuffed in the box, so let's check out the OnePlus 12R. So here it is, boys and girls, all set up and ready for action, the OnePlus 12R. And one thing you'll immediately clock if you are a OnePlus fan is that it's an absolute dead ringer for the original OnePlus 12. So yeah, yet another 6.78-inch hand filler. All I can say is thank the baby Jesus for that one-handed mode. Saves you wrecking your thumb trying to get up to the top edge of the screen. From the front they are practically identical, but the OnePlus 12R does actually sport a matte aluminium alloy frame, which I prefer to a shiny frame because it doesn't get all greasy and grimy when you handle it. And flip it over and the OnePlus 12R sports a similar aesthetic to the OnePlus 12. You've got that distinctive camera bump merging into the edge. Bit of OnePlus logo action, naturally. You've got a pair of different designs to choose from. This is iron grey, otherwise you can also grab the OnePlus 12R in cool blue, which doesn't sound quite as austere. I mean, don't get me wrong, this grey model looks very smart, but it is also rather bloody dull. But it's pretty solid stuff, and you've got Gorilla Glass Victus 2 around front, with a pre-installed screen protector as well, which is just as well, because Victus does occasionally scratch up. There's annoying light little nicks after just a few days. So identical to the OnePlus 12 on those counts, and it's also IP65 rated just like the OnePlus 12. So we can take a bit of a splashing, and apparently that screen can even detect when it's wet and adjust the responsiveness accordingly, which I certainly will be testing out. And oh yeah, another similarity with the OnePlus 12 flagship is that alert slider, which has shifted over to the left edge. So yeah, you can immediately chuck the OnePlus 12R into silent mode or vibrate mode. Very handy if you're about to jump into a meeting, you head into the cinema, something like that. Now to unlock the OnePlus 12R, it's once again an in-display fingerprint sensor, an optical effort as usual. It certainly once again seems responsive and reliable. And once you're in there, we're talking the same software experience. It's once again OxygenOS 14 slapped on top of Android 14. And that comes with OnePlus's usual guarantee of 3 OS updates and 4 years of security patching. So again, same as the OnePlus 12. It's not as long as some rivals, the likes of the Galaxy S24 series, the Pixels, which offer 7 years of support. Let's face it, most people tend to keep their phone for around sort of 4 to 5 years tops anyway. So yeah, you've got all the usual OxygenOS apps and features stacked on here, the likes of Zen Mode, or Zen Space as it's now known. This grants you limited access to just a handful of apps. You're not being constantly distracted when you're trying to actually get stuff done. And speaking as a constantly vibrating ball of stress, I quite like All Relax as well. It's certainly a good alternative when there isn't half a bottle of whiskey conveniently lying around. You can also activate UK mode, or there's a coffee shop mode. I'm still holding out for a Spoonies on a Friday night effort. The sweet sounds of half-cut pensioners arguing about immigration. What could be more relaxing? And you've got all the usual apps you would expect, and they all look rather lush. And quite a few other bonus bits, lots of gesture support, and of course the gaming mode, which is rather excellent. I'll bang on about that later. The storage, not quite as generous here on the OnePlus 12R. It does start with just 128 gigs. You can double that to 256 if you hoy a bit more cash at OnePlus. But of course the flagship OnePlus 12, you could upgrade all the way up to 1 terabyte. But the OnePlus 12R, like the OnePlus 12, not expandable via micro SD memory card. Now the OnePlus 12R does sport a slightly different display to the OnePlus 12 as well. Not that you'd know it just from playing around with them side by side. It's once again a punchy, poppy AMOLED display. Lovely, gorgeous, sharp contrast, nice, vivid color reproduction as well. Full Dolby Vision and HDR10 Plus streaming support. The max resolution not quite as crisp here on the OnePlus 12R. As you can see there, it's a 1.5K display rather than Quad HD. But honestly, this makes minimal difference. Certainly if you're just kicking back, checking out your photos or enjoying a bit of Disney Plus or whatever, you'll struggle to pick out much finer detail on the regular OnePlus 12. And apparently the OnePlus 12R actually has an LTPO4 display compared with the LTPO3 screen on the regular OnePlus 12. So for instance, with LTPO4 tech, if you're flicking fast through a website like so, the refresh rate will max out at 120 Hz here on the OnePlus 12R, just to give you a nice fluid experience. On the other hand, if you're browsing a bit more slowly or just leaving it static, then the refresh rate will bump back down again, just to help preserve that battery life. On the OnePlus 12, you still max out at 120 Hz refresh for that lovely fluid browsing experience, but the refresh rate isn't quite as dynamic. And if you max out that brightness, as you can see, no issues with visibility either. They will counter any kinds of glare out there. And just like the regular flagship, the OnePlus 12R sports a cracking stereo speaker setup. Let's check it out. Now, I absolutely adored the tits off the OnePlus 11 flagship phone last year, so I'm as happy as a puppy that's just discovered his own balls now that the OnePlus 12 is finally going global. Now, the audio spaffed out by the regular OnePlus 12 does sound a bit more beefy, a little bit louder on that max volume, but you certainly won't be disappointed by the OnePlus 12R. Does the job. And of course, neither of these OnePlus blowers has a headphone jack, boo, hiss, etc. But the Bluetooth streaming smarts are absolutely fine. So now let's shift on to performance. And while the OnePlus 12 sports the latest, freshest Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, you've got the older Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 running the show on the OnePlus 12R. So it's perhaps not massively shocking, therefore, that the OnePlus 12 is the better performer of the pair. This is benchmarking with both of them set in performance mode. And both my review models have 16 gigs of RAM, so it is a fair fight. But while the OnePlus 12 is undoubtedly the beefier of this pair, the OnePlus 12R absolutely stands tall. It's still a fluid, everyday experience, as you'd expect, because the 8 Gen 2 is still an absolute banger of a mobile chipset. Can certainly cope with any gaming out there, like the Genshin Impact on those highest graphic settings. At 60 frames per second, you will see the odd judder in that frame rate, the odd stumble here and there, but overall holds up really well. And while the OnePlus 12R did get a wee bit toasty after an hour and a half of gaming, thankfully it didn't seem to throttle the performance or cause any issues. That cooling system does on the whole cope with it. And of course you've got the usual rather bloody good OnePlus OxygenOS gaming mode. Got the usual performance boosting modes, of course, screen recording, network optimization, touch optimization, quite handy if you want to tweak the sensitivity of the screen. You got the likes of Hyper HDR, which is supposed to boost the overall lighting effects, improve the shading. Got to admit, I didn't really notice much of a difference with this. And to be honest, in Genshin Impact, I'm usually too busy having my face torn off to really care. And good news if you want to get gaming all afternoon long, because the OnePlus 12R sports a 5,500 mAh capacity battery, which is bloody massive. It's a mite bigger than the 5,400 mAh one stuffed inside of the OnePlus 12, so the battery life is just as good. I haven't yet had a chance to slip my SIM inside of the OnePlus 12R and use it as my full-time smartphone, but when I do for my in-depth review, I imagine it'll happily survive a full-on intensive day with hours and hours of screen on time, even when I'm absolutely rinsing that camera. And the OnePlus 12R also sports that same pleasingly nippy 100 watt wide charging support, same as the regular OnePlus 12, but unlike that flagship, it doesn't have the wireless charging support. So you have to bung a cable in it every time you want to juice it back up. So a few wee differences between the OnePlus 12 and the 12R so far. Nothing too major, until that is you get to the camera tech. So while both the OnePlus 12R and the OnePlus 12 sport a 50 megapixel primary camera sensor, it is actually a different sensor. The OnePlus 12 has Sony's fresh new LYT-808, whereas on the OnePlus 12R it's the older but still pretty dependable Sony IMX-890. And here's just a few side-by-side samples that I shot with the OnePlus 12 and the OnePlus 12R. Both dependable across a range of conditions, but the OnePlus 12 is slightly better in those lower light situations and when you've got extreme HDR. In fact, OnePlus's optics partner Hasselblad didn't even want their branding put on the regular OnePlus 12R, just the OnePlus 12. Don't even get that snazzy orange shutter button. But it's pretty much the same camera experience. You've got a Pro mode on both of these blowers, or Master mode as it's known here on the OnePlus 12. This allows you to fiddle around with all of the main camera settings, the ISO levels, the white balance. You can shoot in JPEG or RAW formats. You've got all the usual features. You've got a portrait mode, you've got a dedicated night mode and everything. One extra mode you get on the OnePlus 12, not the 12R, is the X-Pan mode. It's a Hasselblad thing and frankly a bit poncy. However, the OnePlus 12R does suffer when it comes to flexibility, because while you do have an ultra-wide angle shooter, it is a basic 8 megapixel effort versus the 50 meg effort here on the OnePlus 12. So certainly don't expect as much fine detail. The tones aren't quite as good either. And likewise, there's no telephoto modes here on the OnePlus 12R, so when you are zooming, it is just digital cropping basically, compared with the actual dedicated telephoto shooter that's slapped on the back of the OnePlus 12. So again, when you are zooming in, you can expect crisper detail from the OnePlus 12 versus the 12R. And that final lens slapped on the back end of the OnePlus 12R is a basic bog standard 2 megapixel macro shooter, i.e. a waste of glass. If you swap to a bit of video action, well, again, there's some differences between the 12 and the 12R. So the 12R tops off at 4K resolution footage at either 30 or 60 frames per second. Whereas here on the OnePlus 12, you can bump it all the way up to 8K resolution at 24 FPS. But to be honest, who really shoots at 8K anyway? Do you have an 8K TV? I sure as hell don't. The 4K video chops on both of these blows absolutely fine. As for the selfie cam shenanigans, well, it's a 16 megapixel front-facing shooter on the OnePlus 12R. Got double the megapixels, 32 here on the OnePlus 12. But again, they both do the job nicely, even in quite low light conditions thanks to the screen flash feature. I'd imagine these photos will look a lot better if they were somebody else's face, frankly. And there you have it, my lovelies. That in a hearty wee nutshell is the fresh new OnePlus 12R and how it stacks up against that OnePlus 12. Now my full OnePlus 12 review is live right now, so you can see exactly what I think of this shiny flagship blower. And as I say, I'm hoping to slip my SIM inside of the OnePlus 12R and see if it's really worth bumping up your budget a bit for that 12, or whether the 12R will do you just fine. Initial impressions are that obviously the software experience is still fantastic. It's great for just kicking back with some Netflix or Disney+. You can certainly handle some gaming as well, although if you are really into your Genshin Impact, some high intensity fare, you might want to get a bit of regular vanilla 12 on the go. But it's definitely the camera tech that sets these two apart. If you want the likes of the telephoto zoom in your life, well, it's got to be 12 all the way. So that's what I reckon. It'd be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech, and have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, I love you!